Hi everybody, Bobby Ogilvy, Project Manager and Professional Coach. Today's question, why are performance reviews dying? You could think of them as annual performance reviews. I'm sure we've all dealt with them before. And what should you do instead? Okay, so the first question, why are these performance reviews dying? Because they're not effective at getting results. They're also very unreliable in terms of um, what they're trying to measure, right? Very subjective, and when I'm saying unreliable, I mean statistically low reliability, and I'm sure it actually has low accuracy, like low validity and low predictability, and other things too. But the way we have approached them, so just the simple stats of them aren't good, but they don't drive better performance. So it's just this arbitrary game of screaming numbers we go through. It also kind of shows that well, HR might have, I shouldn't say noble roots, has a noble heart, and as we certainly has tons of potential in the future. Um, on the downside, the dark side of HR, it's very close to, legal and policy stuff because it relates to hiring and firing, and both the legal things of how you need to bring someone on board, but also how you might fire someone or how you might, even more cynically, how you might create a track record of their poor performance to justify firing them, right? And in that way, yeah, again, that's not about getting the best out of someone's performance. That's about trying to protect the company's ass, right? Um, so that's not good. The fact that has to happen. Then when you think about it, obviously, the bosses, the managers doing these things, beyond saying they're not properly trained at them. Again, we're talking about one person doing this. Now, if you want something a bit better than just the subjective annual performance review done by one manager, there's something called 360 feedbacks. So what's a 360 feedback? So in theory, it's supposed to be a full circle, a 360-degree circle view of this person. So if you think of the individual employee we're talking about, the feedback includes their peers, their coworkers, their supervisors, their superiors, their subordinates, people that report to them, as well as also you want to include clients, customer-facing data, as well as performance data. And if you can include those 5 elements, you get a much better snapshot. What this can be really important for is picking up if there are consistent problems you're having with people, right? Not everyone always has to get along, but it's an important indicator really of toxicity. A lot of the current talent and performance management literature isn't just how to drive performance on the people that are doing well that you want to get the best out of. It's how do you mitigate the damage and see the full impact of toxicity, of toxic employees, right? And that is very much a thing. So obviously, yeah, if you're getting feedback from all these people around them, particularly the peers and the subordinates, you will pretty quickly pick up if someone is an asshole. And as in modern times now, actually looking for healthy, more engaged organizations that can detect this. This is really important. Which is to say, we realize how important our culture is, or on the negative end of it, you could say we realize how costly it is to have bad culture. This was more talking about sustainability, but I remember one quote framing it as everything we thought was a bad business decision, but a good, noble-hearted, community or environmental decision, in the long run, ended up being a good business decision. And I think that actually has to do with externalities and understanding upstream and downstream effects. So a lot of these business practices, which in short term tend to think they're saving money, they displace costs in other places, right? So you start to skimp on training costs, and now you're not getting the performance you need. Your organizational culture starts to suffer, and now your retention goes down. A few bad managers are creating enough impact that your absentee and your presenteeism and your performance are dropping. All kinds of issues, right? And there are healthy ways of addressing these, and there are short-term reactive ways, right? Anyway, so I think I'm getting a bit off topic here. This is again about performance reviews, why they don't work, and what you should be doing instead. So. Again, they don't work because they have stupid legalistic origins. 360 feedbacks are great. The other point about what else should you do instead, well, 360 feedbacks are a good place to start. Coaching. And I'll just give you a snapshot of what coaching is in the sense. In the broadest sense, coaching is just helping someone achieve their goals. It's one-on-one, or sorry, it can be one-on-one. It can also be group-based. It's client-centered, meaning it's about the goals that individual person comes up with, not about someone telling them what to think. And it's about getting so beyond saying exploring what they need here, tapping into their capacity and wisdom, and trying to get them to be accountable, right? One of the most important things I would say about coaching is the accountability, or you could think of it as like the action or the implementation quality. Those of you who may have ever been in therapy before know that therapy has a lot of focus on this emotional release, or even CBT is trying to kind of get out your inner thoughts. So it's great to have some insight, some new awareness, or in coaching we think of it as a state change. You're going through your different feelings and motives on something. You're hopefully coming to a better understanding of what you want, or you've had some kind of breakthrough or insight or change of state. But then you want to solidify that, not just by calcifying, what is that insight, but committing that to action. And that could be on a personal or professional level. So this is really important. And this also really speaks to processes and changing habits, practices, processes. They are what our lives are composed of, and they are what the new things we want to bring into our lives are composed of. Habits, practices. And so we can't just think of it as, some one-off insight or some one-off spark, inspiration, or motivation. We need to think of it as the practices of our lives. And in that way, it is really honing your practices. I want more of these practices. I want less of those habits and practices, and continuing to do that over time. That's why accountability is very important. You can see in that sense how it links well with work. And just while we're on the topic of work, there's some parts about coaching which, as much as really good in the workplace, I guess I would frame these as professional ethical parameters, right? You are boundary-wise conflicted if you are someone's manager, their supervisor, and their coach, right? So you can be coach-like in lots of situations. You can be coach-like with your friends or with your coworkers, but a coaching relationship, one, is something people consciously enter into, but two, should be unconflicted, or at least be openly declared what the conflict is, and either that should be avoided, or it should be like clear what would be boundary breaking in that perimeter. And yeah, when your boss and your coach are the same person, that could be very bad. Now, that being said too, I'm a big believer in transformational leadership, and transformational leadership has a lot of evidence-based support behind it, right? And a big theme of transformational leadership is transforming, training, developing the people around you. So that fits very well. And I do really think going forward that the notion, the approach of manager as coach, that is a thing that will take off. And in the future, beyond saying we'll ask what's someone's technical knowledge, but it'll be like, what's their coaching experience? How much background do you have in teaching and training and dealing with others? And that will be their bread and butter. Can they operate, and can they develop others? So I think that's probably enough of a snap. Maybe I'll mention one more piece around road mapping. So if you think of, we may have in the past been used to annual performance reviews, 12-month cycle. You probably want to bring that down. You probably want to bring it to quarterly. It's a smaller block of time. When timelines are too far out, psychologically, that's bad in terms of not just the motivation we have towards it, but it's like we both inflate how much we can do in that time, but yet we don't create enough impetus. So it's better to create something more like a 3-month goal, and then break that down. And so that's what road mapping is, right? So it's in that sense, it's easier to say, okay, what's reasonable to accomplish in 3 months, and then the road mapping part of it would be like, okay, well, on a 1 week or a 2 week basis, what are the steps that would lead to that, right? So because when you think of it in that sense, a goal 3 months out, broken down to a weekly basis, that's 13 steps, right? That's not a lot of steps. Or even biweekly, that would be 6 or 7 steps, right? Let's say you got the initial session right, 6 steps. So, that's not that much time. But it's also enough to know that like every minute, every week, every next session, they really count. They really add up. And so you have this sense of timeliness and accountability. Again, that's part of why coaching is effective. It's trying to touch base with your values, with what you want in your life, with bringing out your best qualities, with training and developing into your best self, with practicing being your best self, experiencing yourself as your best self. and bringing that into your life. So it's that habit change is really the magic of how it becomes real and sustainable and grounded and phenomenal. So just to recap, annual performance reviews don't work. The data is reliable. People aren't good judges. 360 feedback, 360 assessment is a good start to change it. But really, you want to be thinking about coaching. And coaching, if you are a manager, is great, even though it can have some professional conflicts. So make sure you're clear on that on the upfront. And again, one of the reasons coaching is powerful is because it's so focused on accountability and habit change. So hopefully this can invigorate your 2017 and your teams and your culture, and you guys can get the best out of the people around you. Hope you learned something. I'm Bobby Ogilvy, Project Manager and Professional Coach. I will talk to you guys again soon.